You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone. This is the your special Christmas gift episode. So Taylor, I got a little bit we're gonna do here. I'm gonna unwrap the gift and you're gonna tell us what it is.
Okay.
So here we go. What is it?
Joker 2.
Yay!
Wah wah. The gift
The equivalent of getting socks.
or
Christmas.
coal. It's the gift no one asked for. Do you know how to pronounce the actual title? Joker
Folie Deux. Folie Deux. Folie Deux?
You can tell
Folie Deux.
We went really far in our French our French in Ontario public school. How far did you take French?
I mean, the Joker didn't take things seriously. Why should we? I took French up until grade 8. No, that's not right. I think I took it for 1 year in high school because you had to at that time. So I took grade 9 French.
Yep, that checks out. That's me too.
I got a 51.
I don't know what I got,
tell me.
But it was a struggle. They're like, Mike is so bad at French, we don't want to see him next year. So just give him a 50.
Yeah. I cannot learn another language. I don't know French. I mean, neither does this movie though. Like, the title's irrelevant. Should we start with that? Like, this title is irrelevant.
Well, before, yes, we will start with that. But before we dive in, Mike, we should do a service to our listeners and explain that because this is a long-awaited episode, this is especially good instructions for people who never listened to our old show, Mike, because longtime listeners will know that when we've kind of geared up to a big movie that everyone's been waiting for and enough time has passed, we always do spoilers. So
yeah, this will be a full spoiler review. So if you haven't seen Joker Folie Deux and you care about spoilers, which I don't know why you would, and be listening to this, then obviously pause this and go watch it and then come back. But chances are enough time has passed. If you were interested in watching it, you have.
Yeah. Or you were waiting for this review and then we're going to decide. So if that's the case, skip to the end to find out if it's a see it or a skip it. And then you can listen to the spoilers after you've seen the movie. But
but otherwise we're going to spoil it.
Is there even much to spoil? I don't know.
Well, that's a great first question. If there is anything to spoil, I guess there's technically a reveal as to where this goes, and then maybe one you could call twist or thing that happens near the end that is sort of like shattering to the movie itself. So I would consider that a spoiler if it had been out for about a week. But seeing as we're 2 months removed from Joker-ish?
Must be. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a while, but also been so short. So you are there's so much to talk about and yet nothing to talk about. So
I think the first thing we have to talk about is the price of the rental.
Oh, mine was $6.99.
$6.99. So usually when something gets released for the first time as a new rental, it's more than $6.99 to rent.
Oh yeah, true. I was shocked that I wasn't paying like $29.99 for this, but I also think
because then no one will pay for it.
But like you're saying, Mike, Amazon does what you describe that as, like, surge pricing. So if it's a brand new release and it's gotten good reviews and there's a lot of buzz around it, you're probably spending $29 for a rental, which is almost, at that point, it's almost like I should just buy this movie because like then the purchase price is only a couple dollars higher. But this movie, which only has been available for rental, as far as I know, for about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, it's already slashed down to $6.99. But Mike, I will even though this movie probably doesn't deserve a lot of slack, I will give them slack because I think Amazon might be having holiday pricing right now for their rentals, because I've noticed a lot
Oh,
of
okay.
rentals were $6.99. What movie did I just recently
Okay.
rent that was $6.99? But anyways, I think that's like their it's so stupid how like Boxing Day is like a week now, 2 weeks. Or Black Friday is a week. Well, I've noticed that places are already doing
Mhm.
Boxing Day pricing. So I
Yeah, that's the whole week.
guess my guess is that we received holiday/Boxing Day pricing on our rental. Although if it stays $6.99, clearly that's their vote of
Mhm.
confidence for the movie. So we've already backtracked a little bit in terms of our rentals, but did you want to also talk about the movie title before we get into our reviews?
Well, yeah, let's talk about this movie title. Because I think you defined it on the show before. Like, Folie Deux is some sort of shared dream concept thing.
It's like a shared madness, as far as I know. We pulled up
Okay.
the Wikipedia article a million years ago, but from my understanding, it's like someone has psychosis, and it's like a real medical
Doesn't make any
term.
sense.
It's a real thing. Someone will have like a mental illness or a psychosis, and then someone in close proximity to them, whether it be like a romantic relationship or like a family relationship, will quote unquote catch the mental illness, and then they sort of like share the delusion. So that's
Yeah.
my understanding of the medical term. And on first glance, like when the little we knew about the plot, we knew that
Yeah.
um Harley Quinn was going to be in this movie. So like you're like, okay, a shared madness, that makes sense. Like based on canon, we know that they're in like a codependent relationship. um Normally the Joker is much more abusive towards Harley than she is to him. I don't think she can be described as an abuser,
They
but
sort of
they feed
they
off
sort
of
of
each
tried
other.
to switch they tried to switch that script a little bit,
Yeah.
and made her kind of more manipulative, which we'll talk about later. But also, just a point of clarification, Taylor, you are correct about the canon, and of course that her name is Harley Quinn, and in this movie, her name is like Harley Quinzola. So there's that.
They were trying, I think it was because what's Harley Quinn's name before she becomes Harley Quinn? It's Dr. Quinville, right? I thought that they were combining her names in this movie, but
They
I
were
could be
combining
wrong.
her names. That's exactly what they were doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they, instead of like having it as separate names, they were combining it all into one. Yes, precisely.
People probably know this, but in canon again, the idea is that Harley Quinn was a psychologist. I always mix up the two terms, but essentially she's
Psychologist. Yeah,
she's working at Arkham Asylum, and then depending on the story, she falls in love with the Joker and then becomes Harley Quinn. But again, this origin story is a little bit different.
yeah.
We won't jump right into plot yet. I don't know where you want to go with this, Mike, but again, just talking about the title, I think
Yeah,
the biggest problem for me for this movie was the script, like narrative. I think the narrative was very
yes,
weak.
yes,
I think like
yeah.
personally, I don't think this movie was as bad as initial reviews were. Not to say that this is a good movie. I don't I don't think this is a good movie, but I also don't think it's as
Yeah.
bad as people thought it was going to be, or it was. But the biggest problem with this movie, aside from the musical numbers, which we'll get into, I'm sure, Mike, probably a 30
We'll
minute
get into
rant
that
from you.
too. Uh-huh.
Um, but the I found the script very weak, and I think that's because in the first
Yeah.
movie we talked about this when we reviewed Joker 1. I think the Todd Phillips or whatever his name is wrote himself into a corner by making the Joker have a definable mental illness, and there was nowhere to go in this movie. And then they introduced a new character, and I think she was severely underwritten. And so the idea is that, okay, it's a
Yeah.
shared madness between the two of them. And it's like, she breezes into the movie and kind of breezes out of the movie.
It's not.
It's not a
Like,
shared
that's
madness.
like that's my problem with the title. Is that it's not a shared madness. It's all in his head. Like, she has like, she's being manipulative, but she almost has nothing to do with it, other than the fact that, like, she does manipulate him and she does lie to him.
Hero
She does
worship.
trick him. That's right. That's right. But she's not part of the madness. It's in his head. She's not, like, sharing in these mad moments in like a weird stylistic way. You know what? Okay, this is what I'm going to say. This is my biggest problem in general with what Todd Phillips did with both the first movie and the second movie. Todd Phillips reminds me of a university level theater director. Right? So what did he do with his first movie? It's a complete ripoff of something else. Right?
Taxi Driver.
Complete ripoff of Taxi Driver. Right? So dude had inspiration, did this thing, whatever, you know, comes off as a bit of a one of the people in the you know, drama department who I'd be like, that's more of a bro director than it is anything else. That's how I would describe him. Took a thing that he loves, recreated it. Then in this second movie, he takes a concept he knows nothing about.
Just pause real quick, and like happened to stumble upon like multi-million-dollar success.
That's
and I think that also
is be successful. People happen to like it. yes. Which happens a lot. Which happens a lot. I would go to see pieces of theater at Queen's, directed by Queen's students, that were inspired by something else that happened to be good. They happened to hit upon something. But then they follow it up with a movie that is definitely not ripped from one thing. Probably someone saying to themselves, oh, everyone's saying I ripped this off, I'm going to do something really original and different. It was a hot mess of a movie with a concept he didn't understand, putting it forward in a way of like, yeah, well, I'm going to be all artsy and different. I'm going to challenge your thinking of mental illness by doing this. And then you just got it wrong. Like, it was just not, it's not a shared madness. It's all in the Joker's head. And the biggest problem I had with this movie was I don't understand what happened in this movie, especially when you get to the end. The Joker's final moments on the stand. We're just giving his final brief at the end of the trial. He starts representing himself when he does that. So I just don't get it. So I don't understand what happened, and not because I think I'm dumb. It's because I think this movie didn't know what it wanted to be. And like you were saying, they wrote themselves into such a corner in the first movie that it's like, where do you go from here? Well, where you go from here, Taylor? And the answer to that is you introduce Batman. Right? That's where you would go.
Yeah, in a normal...
do this. Like, in a normal movie, Harley Quinn, okay, fine, in there. Maybe she's a doctor, maybe she's a patient. Not too sure what's going on. The two of them, not inside the Joker's head, but in reality, start messing stuff up at Arkham, start causing problems, and Batman has to intervene. That's a movie. I don't know what this was. This was a disaster from the minute it began to the minute it ended. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, there were some visual moments I liked. There were some directorial choices that I thought were interesting. This is like a quality film in terms of they spent money on this, and there's some good performances in here, but the writing is underdeveloped. The direction is sloppy. The tone is all over the place. The script work is just atrociously bad. I don't think they had any idea what they were doing when they were writing this thing.
There's like so many, we can go into so many directions, and I'm trying to collect my thoughts.
Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to keep going on your thoughts on the script? You said you really didn't like the script of this particular movie.
Well, I don't want to like be a dead horse, and I also don't want to sound like I'm coming off as a bleeding heart. But that was essentially my review of the first one. Like, I thought that it actually did a really big disservice to individuals who suffer from mental illness.
Right.
In the first one, and I will get on my soapbox and say that, and I'm 99% sure that was like my major critique of it when I saw Joker 1, and that I thought in a way that it's like glorifying. It both glorifies and stigmatizes mental illness in a very unique and crazy way.
Like, in a way, only a university director can.
Yeah, like, how can you do both those things to stigmatize and glorify mental illness.
Taylor,
Um,
you should have taken in more theater when you were at
I
Queens.
guess, yeah,
Because
because that's
that would have been exactly your takeaway from a lot. Because okay, well intentioned individuals attempting to tell a story and wanting to talk about certain things. There's no problem with that. There's no problem with wanting to explore concepts like this. But when you get it so, I don't even want to necessarily just keep saying the word wrong, but it didn't work. Like whatever you were doing was confusing, and it didn't. I don't understand how it enhanced the material. That's what
that's
I don't get.
so we've talked about this again. I hate to keep going back to the first movie, but now this is the sequel. So they're bookends. They're a pair. So I remember thinking saying in my first review essentially that if you wanted to do a critique of like the decline of society, the rise of mental illness, how that kind of translates to like an incel culture, the overlap, yada yada yada. Essentially, like that's the premise of the first movie. My whole gripe was like, if you want to do that, okay, but why use the Joker as the framing device
Right.
when the Joker, the excitement, I guess you could say, from the character is that he's undefinable. He is definitely, as
Mysterious.
a mysterious. Like I again, like you can't really. I don't think he has a diagnosis in canon, but like he's like
No.
an anarchist. He's both an anarchist and like a sociopath and like a psychopath. Like that's kind of like if you were gonna do his like pathology.
Yeah.
And so like the excitement of the character comes from that kind of, you don't know what he's gonna do next. You don't know what his agenda
Oh,
is. He's
so
more ambiguous. Sorry. So go ahead, Mike. Jump in.
yeah, no, I just wanted to say to your point about canon, I think the only like if anyone who isn't like a huge comic book person, if you wanted to get an idea of like, okay, what Joker is closest to canon, it's Heath Ledger's portrayal.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is the
Chaos
closest
for
where
chaos
every
sake.
in that movie, chaos for chaos sake, every time someone like he tells his origin story, he tells it 3 times in the movie and it's different each time. Like
And
there's
that's
a
what it's like in
mystery,
the
there's
comic
an
books, right?
uncertainty. That's right. You don't know his origin because he has multiple origins because he always lies for the sake of creating chaos. Exactly.
And so my whole thing was, and I know I'm going to sound like maybe an old fogey or that I'm beating a dead horse, but I, I don't understand. Well, I know why Todd Phillips did what he did, taking Joker and doing what he did with it, because he kind of wanted to do an FU to the industry because he wasn't allowed to make comedies anymore. Like, okay, dude, go touch grass. The fact that you spent $100 million making a sequel because you felt like you couldn't make comedies anymore, like that's insane. That's insane.
Right.
You need to go to therapy. But
Yeah.
so my gripe is he graphs this sort of commentary on the end of like the decline of a society, the rise of mental illness, and the this overlap of an incel culture. He graphs that on to the Joker, right? And I don't agree with that interpretation of the character, and I felt like he should have just made an original movie without using existing IP. So that was like my major gripe with the first movie. Number one, that it was a complete Taxi Driver remake, essentially, and then the fact that he grafts the Joker character on for like his own personal vendetta reasons, I guess. I don't know. So those problems translate into this new movie because, like I said at the top of the episode, Mike, there's nowhere to go with that. So again, we're in this universe where you're using recognizable IP, and I just don't understand why. I mean, again, I guess cognitively, I know why he did what he did because he's gone on record, essentially. And I could be misconstruing that story. So I apologize if I'm getting Todd Phillips' rationale wrong, Mike, but I definitely read that he essentially was pissed off. He hates superhero movies, and he was pissed off he can't make comedies anymore because apparently of woke culture. Did you read the same narrative? That's what I've been reading about him.
I didn't hear about the comic book thing, but definitely he was very he was very uh, public about his criticism of the way culture is going for creating comedies. That I
It's
remember.
so
I don't remember him having an issue with superhero movies specifically.
I might be getting that wrong, but that's essentially the narrative I know about him. And I just feel
Right.
like yeah, it's like such a weird, and I don't think if this is like a meta critique of like comic book culture, which is what some people are saying, that like the way he treats the Joker is in the film is like a gotcha to the comic book audience. Have you also read that? I've read that in some reviews.
Yeah,
That
I have, and I passionately disagree.
I don't
I
think
don't
the
think this
movie's that
movie is smart
smart.
enough for that. No, it's
Or
not.
like
It's
if
and that's the justification of fans who really want to love something. And I get it. I understand the passion, and I encourage that level of passion when it comes to this kind of thing. But you're just trying to justify the the stupid nature of the film. It's not that smart. There is not a hidden message. This is one of the more surface movies I think I've ever seen.
I think he had more of a critique in the first movie. Like all that
I
stuff
would
I
agree
was
with that.
saying.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, yeah, that's like you're offering whether or not it's like a very deep social analysis. I think the first movie had something more to say than the second one
I would
because
agree.
again, the second one he's written himself into a corner. The whole premise of the movie is he actually crazy? Like, is he disassociating? Is the Joker like a split personality? Or is he just um like pathetic, I guess is the alternative. But it also, Mike, it didn't make sense
But
because
that's what I'm saying.
he
That's not
has
a
mental
choice.
illness. But like he also, even if he
Yeah,
doesn't have a split personality, he is mentally ill in the movie. So I didn't understand how the whole
I didn't
court
get it.
case, the whole court case,
That's right.
they're like, okay, we're gonna like prove that. I guess they're saying he's mentally ill, but he's not mentally ill enough to
That's right. So if he had basically the idea was if he had this disassociation where he becomes this other person and it's separate from himself, he actually wouldn't be allowed to be put to death and get the death penalty. He would be, have to be rehabilitated. It would be like a heavy mental illness. But if that's not the case and he himself is just whatever they want to call him on his own, he would be put to death. The argument is confusing because it doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
Like that's not a choice.
he's either crazy or super crazy. And it's like that's not an
Yeah, like that's
interesting
not a thing.
and it's not interesting to watch cuz like it's very
No.
evident that he is mentally unwell while you're so again I guess my critique of like the portrayal of mental illness. It's an uncomfortable movie to watch because it's Joaquin Phoenix is a phenomenal actor and plays the Arthur Fleck / Joker character with a lot of nuance. So it's not a comfortable movie to sit with. You're like, whatever ends up happening. I guess what Todd Phillips was like, he's either mentally ill or like he's the incel hero. And I guess I'm like talking as I'm thinking this out. I guess because spoiler, he dies at the end and he also like goes on record saying I'm not the Joker. I guess maybe that's the big middle finger to the
Well, that's what
audience.
I'm
Like
talking about.
he's not
But
the
that
incel hero you thought he was. Woo! He's just
that did not
devastatingly
elicit
mentally ill. Sorry, go ahead.
any kind of a reaction from me. So when that happened, when it was those final moments in the trial where he's giving his closing statement and he sort of heart wrenchingly reveals that there is no Joker, it's just him, it's Arthur Fleck. I went, yeah, okay. Like I didn't understand why that meant anything, and so when he gets kind of the explosion happens in the courtroom and he gets broken out for a bit, and those two jokery guys try to get him out,
Save
and then he
him.
runs away and he gets recaptured again. Yeah, like there was no to me that felt like it had no purpose. Why is this part in the movie? There was never a moment where you see the rioting individuals who are back behind him. We never saw their spirit broken by the thing that he said. And I think that that's what they were going for, was not only is it would be, in our society, it would be equivalent to someone who's part of a big movement kind of finally getting up on TV and saying, it's all a sham. This isn't actually right. We shouldn't be doing this. And everyone just being like, no, you tricked us. But that doesn't happen. He just, this reveal happens.
I
He
guess
does this, court case ends, and then he gets killed. And that's it.
I guess what they tried to do, like what you're describing, is so Harley Quinn ends up, or Harley, whatever you want to call her, Lee. She's called Lee in the movie.
Lee. She's called Lee, yeah.
Lee. Lee ends up leaving him essentially, and is
That's
like,
right.
I'm only in love with the Joker. I'm not in love with Arthur Fleck.
Sure.
I guess that, like, what you're describing about like the masses being devastated, or like, you know, their spirits have been broken. I guess that you like see that through Lee, but again, like,
I guess,
we know,
but not really.
We also
like,
know so little about her that I'm like, I don't get this relation.
I guess my point is, where's the scene? Where's the moment in this movie where there's a consequence that is big or massive to what he said in the trial? Where's the scene where he says this in the trial? Everyone outside reacts poorly, being like, no, like, what are you talking about? You are the Joker. Of course you're the Joker. You can't let us down like that. They blow up the courtroom. They take him out, and the mob gets a hold of him, and they brutally kill him.
Yeah, like, that would have been much better. Like, you could have
right.
and you just see Lee like recede into the crowd, right?
Yes,
like, she's
100%.
She's the first one to throw the stone, and then everyone else gets it. Like, it's a literal mob killing, and she just recedes.
Yes,
there's a million ways
like
this
you're
movie
saying, that shot, you're describing it well. That shot, right? So she throws the stone, and everyone climbs, and he looks back, and she gives a little smirk smile and backs up into the crowd, and the crowd takes him over.
And then it's the imagined him on stage with her, because okay, let's now transition maybe and talk about the musical sequences. So
sure.
I think so. For people who've seen the movie, obviously you are, and people who haven't seen the movie are probably well aware that in certain circles it was being marketed as a musical. Todd Phillips seemed to have flip-flopped on that during promotion. Even Lady Gaga seemed to flip-flop. But essentially all you need to know is that there are musical numbers in this movie. Some are highly, highly, highly stylized, where others are not. So, just like skipping back a little bit to the ending, Mike. So in the actual movie, the random inmate at Arkham murders him and then like tears up his own face, which I actually thought that was a good shot. Like, that was creatively done. But then he recedes into his mind, and he's imagining that it's Harley who shoots him. And it's like, that made no sense. It wasn't it just, but so if it was to happen how you're describing it, it then would have made sense for him to recede into his mind, and he has the fantasy of her shooting him in the gut. That would have made more sense, because she was the one who actually killed him. So my biggest problem with the movies were not the highly produced, stylized ones where like when they are essentially on a variety show. I actually thought those were well done, and I liked them. And I thought Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, their chemistry in those scenes and their craftsmanship really really shined through. And I wish they had relied on that more often. What happened more was this, they would break into song together or individually, not singing well, and there would be piano accompaniment. Mike, I think if there had been no piano accompaniment, it would have made sense. It would have been like, here are these two wackos singing, because there are times in the movie where the characters are reacting to them. They see them singing.
Right.
So like, why is there piano playing? Anyways, go ahead. I know you're going to have lots of feelings.
All right. So, in order for something to be classified as a musical, it needs to have a couple particular elements. So when it comes to music, the number one thing is the point of a musical number is it replaces dialogue as if it is being spoken, but it's being sung instead. So people are reacting to it as if it's dialogue, like a monologue, etc., that type of thing. They're not reacting as if you're singing. That's number one. In almost no musical, unless it's about a band, do people know that you're singing. That's number one, right?
Okay.
Number two, a musical number can also take place out of time. So the best example is Chicago, where there's sort of like a real life movie going on, and the stage show is very similar. And then you break out these musical numbers that are almost fantastical and kind of done in a different way, right? And then you have musicals like Moulin Rouge that are set within a confine where music makes a lot of sense, but still the moments where characters are singing to each other and not on stage, it is in the heat of the moment, and it is replacing a monologue. It's to further the plot. It's to show great emotion. It's instead of having an internal thought, you're singing it instead. So this movie felt like it was created by someone who does not know what a musical is, but has heard of musicals, and was just like, this is kind of it, because sometimes it worked, and I'm like, yep, that's what a musical is. About half hour into the movie, we get our first actual musical number, which is Arthur watching the TV screen, and he does a little musical number and sings around. And then, if you're remembering the part, Taylor, near the beginning, where I think someone asked him, "How do you feel?" and he sings, and then it cuts back to them saying,
"Answer them.
How do you answer the question? How do you feel?" Because he, instead he broke out into a 2-minute number, but we didn't hear it because it's in his head. That's fine. That's a musical number. That is like a musical number. If your characters are reacting to it, then you're just singing in the concept of it. This is not necessarily a musical, but sometimes it was. It was very weird.
Like exactly what you're describing. Like that scene happened in their minds, in Arthur's mind, whatever. People weren't reacting. But then he starts singing during a TV interview.
Yeah.
And everyone's reacting. Like, he actually is singing in the TV interview. And then there's like an emotional scene, the final scene with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, and she's singing, and he's saying, Lee, stop singing, talk to me. So again, like, that's like, what?
So one of the things I would have done differently to fix this would be, like we talk about movies a lot, Taylor, is we talk about how like directors have incomplete concepts where they don't maintain consistency throughout the movie. And they introduce interesting stylized things, but only do it once. This felt like he just missed the mark. I would have, from the beginning, every time you wanted to go into a musical number, even before Harley Quinn is introduced, have Arthur go into his own mind on this stage doing this variety show, but it's a solo act. Have him do that maybe twice to establish your concept, and then introduce her. And every single time that you want to pull into a musical number, you go into this fake reality in his head. And then that last scene with her, what I would have done is he runs up to the steps to her, and suddenly he starts imagining the moment, and they start singing to each other. But then he breaks it out and is like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to have a real conversation. I want to be in reality. He breaks his own concept. That's showing something with the character of like trying to have a moment. Stopping her to sing means you knew she was singing the whole time. You knew that this is happening, and then it's happening in real time. So therefore, it's a musical, but you're aware of it. Like, it didn't. To me, it was an incomplete concept. Why introduce music? Well, we want to go into Arthur's head. We want to get Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker makeup, and we want to have fun with him and Harley Quinn. Okay, cool. Do that from the beginning and keep it consistent, as opposed to this half in, half out. Where are musical numbers happening? Where are they? What are they? What's their purpose? What's their meaning? It just felt like a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a hodgepodge of ideas. And like I said, I just feel like it was just underwritten. Like, it just seemed. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga had really good chemistry. I thought, especially in those scenes where they're in the variety show, I think Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, period. And again, it's like how I felt with the first one. Like, what a waste of a Joker portrayal. Like, I
I
still
agree with that.
wish we could see, and not Arthur Fleck. I don't want any more Arthur Fleck. But I mean like Joker. Joaquin Phoenix's
Joker. Yeah.
Joker. Um,
I
what a
think
wasted opportunity.
the first scene where he takes over as the lawyer and he dresses as the Joker, and his entire behavior in the court scene where he pretends to be a Southern lawyer to give he's questioning one of Mr. Puddles or whatever.
Yeah.
That is I think that's the best scene in the movie. Like, that shows some intensity, the emotion getting to him. It's well acted, and I wanted to see more of that chaotic Joker. For
Yeah.
no reason, in a serious court case, when it's his life's on the line, he becomes Southern lawyer. Like, that's Joker. That's a Joker moment to do that kind of thing. It's weird, it's odd, it's a little funny, and it adds something to this sort of intense building scene. I would love to see Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in a Batman movie. It's just a shame we're never going to get it. And you're right, performances in this movie were wasted, because I think Lady Gaga's a great actor too, and did very well with the very little she was given. Like, she was not playing Harley Quinn. That is not Harley Quinn in any other version, but she was good with what she was given.
She was criminally underwritten. Like this, like I
absolutely.
If I haven't seen specific reviews blaming Lady Gaga for the movie tanking, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you do read a review that says Lady Gaga's one of the reasons why this movie tanked. That is not true, because like Mike said, she did the best she could do with the material she was given, and it was not a lot. Again,
no, it wasn't. Like, she had nothing to go off of, and yet she still made Harley Quinn or Lee or whatever her name is somewhat nuanced. Like,
memorable.
You could see yes, like the moments that I remember from the movie often have to do with her, especially the end scene on the staircase. I thought she was very, very good with sort of her subtle manipulation of him. And there was a couple scenes where he was still in prison and she was out, and they had like conversations back and forth. I thought her performance was really well done. Like, she did great. But yeah, like you said, what else are you supposed to do when you're given that little?
I just want to go back. I just remembered something. There's a scene where she says, "You need to stop taking your medication," and he says, "I already have." Which, again, does that not undermine the narrative that he's not?
It does.
It just like
Can we talk about that scene though for a second? Can we talk about that scene? Because here's another thing I'm confused about. So she visits him in solitary.
Yeah.
Puts clown makeup on him. They do some stuff.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't have the clown makeup on anymore immediately. Doesn't have it on the next morning. Yet she's also saying she's pregnant. So did that happen in his mind, or did it actually happen?
Oh.
Was the pregnancy fake? And if it was fake, how would she know that he would have like an hallucination that included her? Like, how would she know to make it fake? But like, the makeup was not there. Like, he didn't have it on the next morning. He didn't have it on when she left. Like, it was just gone. So is that a continuity error, or was it in his mind?
I'm going to chalk that up, because again, I don't think this movie is that smart. I think I'm going to chalk that up to it being a continuity error. And
right.
I think because this is a Joker, or how I interpreted it was that I didn't even think about the makeup. I interpreted her saying she was pregnant was we don't know, she's a liar, like she's an unreliable narrative, but we do know that she's a liar. But I think that she was pregnant because this is a Joker origin story, and people all along have been talking about timeline and stuff. And so I think her child is the actual Joker.
Oh, but I thought the guy who kills him is the actual Joker, because he cuts his face in the same way that
but I thought that was just like a nod. I thought it was more. I think it's more compelling that her child would be the Joker, because like
maybe it's more compelling. I just don't know what they were going for. So.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't
know which one.
I'm thinking like if that guy becomes the Joker, like that's kind of a lame origin story. Like, oh, I
But why
killed
have him cut his face then?
just because he's
Like,
a narcum. He's a he's a nut.
okay.
I think.
Even though he cut
I don't know if I'm allowed
his
to say people
face
are
at
nuts,
the
but
mouth.
I don't. But
Well,
see,
in
that's like
context of this movie, I think
the
like,
the movie again. That to me is just like poor script writing. Are we supposed to think that her
yeah.
child is the Joker? Are we supposed to think that random inmate is going to be? Well, I don't think there's going to be a third movie anyway. So I think Todd Phillips was just like,
No.
whatever. Like, let's throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. Like,
Yeah.
that seemed to be the narrative choices for it. Yeah, it just I don't know what to think. Also, what I think all of the performances, like I said, were pretty good. I do think the Harvey Dent character was miscast,
Ugh.
or there was something going. I'm like,
It
this
didn't work
isn't
for me.
not working for me. That again, why you?
Yeah, like I.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, I was just gonna. All I was gonna say was I think what they were going for was this is Harvey Dent, very young, because he's an assistant attorney at the time.
Yeah.
Assistant district attorney. So he's very young, probably fresh out of like law school, because he is like the guy's playing him is pretty young.
Yeah.
He's like a younger guy. I don't know what they were going for with him, but nothing that he like said. His voice didn't work for me. His mannerisms and just his role in this didn't work for me. I have no idea what they were going for there.
This is again a case of if you're gonna lean into existing IP, do it right or don't do it at all. So it's okay, you want to introduce the Harvey Dent character. It makes sense in the context of the movie. It makes sense in the context of the narrative. Sure, go for it. But he looked like it was like he was playing a 60-year-old lawyer in the body of a 20-year-old, Mike. Like that was the performance.
Thank you. That clears so much up for me. Right? I didn't know what was bothering me, and you just cleared that up.
He had like the gravitas and the confidence of like a very well seasoned lawyer who's gonna go on to do politics, and like that's Harvey Dent's character profile, sure, but the physical appearance of the actor did not make sense with the performance he was given, and like I don't think that's the actor's
He looked
fault.
like somebody out of the. No, he looked like someone out of the TV show Suits.
Yes.
Like he looked like he belonged in the TV show Suits, which is like they're like pristine New York lawyers. Like, you know, they're handling what would you call it? Corporate cases.
Sure.
More so than handling like criminal law. Like they're the suits, the fat cats, the like, you know, I'm rich and have a lot of money and make a lot of money off of like having 5 or 6 really rich clients. He didn't come off as a district attorney kind of role character. He seemed like he was doing this suave, you're right, I'm 60 years old thing. Which like for the record, I would be down for a movie that centers around, you know, Jim Gordon capturing people and Harvey Dent trying to put him away. But I just feel like what they were doing with this, I like courtroom stuff. It fell so flat for me and seemed almost borderline cartoonish, where I didn't feel the tension from him or the stakes, and it felt like laughable. And until you said that about his portrayal, I didn't really know why, and now it just makes so much sense that I just feel like his performance was so weird and geared in such a weird way.
It was like he was playing Harvey Dent in like the Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah.
But again, he looked...
right before he becomes Two-Face.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, he's not playing like an up and coming, you know, scrappy. You'd think like, okay, he's like a passionate, scrappy lawyer. Let's nail this guy. I don't know. It was weird. Also, I thought the portrayal of Arthur Fleck's lawyer, that she's very, I don't know her name, but like she's a very recognizable face, that actress. Mm-hmm. Do you know who I'm talking about? I can't.
I know who you're talking about. She's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she's one of those actresses. I thought she was also quite good, but also she's this like super 100% for Arthur Fleck, like believes him 100%. She is gonna, single-handedly get him off on like insanity plea, whatever. Their relationship
Mm-hmm.
dissolves, and then we literally do not hear or see her again. Like it was like,
No.
it just, again, I think that's such a narrative issue, a writing issue, that she was such a huge part. And like for the majority of the movie, she's put in conflict with Lee. Like there's this like juxtaposition between the two characters, and the characters are in conflict. And we see, which again was kind of like a fake tension, because we knew based on Arthur Fleck's personality, he was always going to side with Lee anyways. So again, just poor
Mm-hmm.
writing. Um
No tension.
no tension. I think the actress did a good job with what she was given, but I think also the part lacked nuance, because at the end of the day, he like horrifically murdered someone on the media, and she's just like, he's innocent almost. Like she knows he committed the
Didn't
crimes, but
say
she's
that, but yeah.
like, I'm like,
I get what you mean, though.
what has he done to deserve the sympathy from you? I guess is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, we go in, it's just like everyone was kind of a caricature. Like, you have the lawyer who like backs her client 100%. Then you have the Harvey Dent character who's like, we got to be tough on crime. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't work for me. Your thoughts on that?
Before we, yeah, like, but I wanted to quickly say, before we get to actually like giving our rating for the movie, I think you're bringing up a really good point about how this movie just doesn't seem to care to develop other characters. Because even I felt like some of the guards in Arkham didn't really have anywhere to go, and didn't like, it kind of seemed like they were important, but then we just really don't get much. Like, it just seemed like the typical guard who's like somewhat friendly towards him but still treats him poorly. Like, it's just,
Yes.
it
Okay.
seemed stereotypical.
Mike, I did not understand the character development whatsoever. I'm assuming he's Irish. He has like an Irish lit, might be Scottish.
Yeah, Gleason, his last name. One of the Gleasons. I can't remember his first name.
Super recognizable again, like character
Yes.
actor. You would recognize him, no problem.
Brendan Gleeson.
There you go. I didn't understand, and I guess also, again, I don't think the movie is smart enough to be making this point, but if you were to say, okay, this movie is from the point of view of Arthur, which I would say this movie does not have a point of view. But if I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if this movie is from the point of view of Arthur, who is an unreliable narrator categorically, it would make sense that the guard character is like, sometimes he's friendly, sometimes he's not friendly, whatever, right? Like an inconsistent character development. However, this movie is not from the point of view of Arthur. I would describe it as almost, how would you, like, omnipresent, like, the author of the story knows everything that's going on. Like, we know more information than Arthur does, essentially.
Yeah.
So like, I did not understand this character's motivations whatsoever. I don't think it was an acting problem. I think it was poor direction and poor writing. The scene where Arthur Fleck is assaulted at the end of the movie by the guards, I'm like, okay, because they were made fun of on TV by a criminal psychopath. Like, it like didn't make it, just none of it made sense, Mike. Like, I didn't understand if he genuinely had sympathy for Arthur Fleck or was only doing things for his benefit. What was your take on that? Mm-hmm. Or do you agree that you just didn't know what was going on?
I just didn't know what was going on. Like, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it was a lack of development, because if it is from his perspective, then you could say, well, the inconsistent behavior is because of his inconsistent views of people. But this movie is, like you're saying, shot from the perspective of, we know everything. We know more than he does. We see scenes that he's not in. We see things like, well, he's on TV as people are reacting and watching them. Like, we see other things. We're getting more information. So to me, it was just inconsistent. Going back to two things, writing and direction. writing is always the first thing. The script is not very good. And I think this direction was really bad. But I don't know if you've heard this, Taylor, because I read a lot on this, that apparently what they did with this movie was they had scripts on set like you normally do, but sometimes there were scenes where Todd Phillips says, we're throwing the scripts away and we're just doing our own thing. That happened. Like, that's a reported thing. I don't know if you've heard
Well, then that explains the inconsistency with the guards, at least. Because sometimes narratively they'd be following the script, and then other times the guards would, I don't know, be taken away by the action of the scene, I guess.
Yeah, it made no sense. And I think at the end of the day, this is a movie that was not very good and was not very smart. And I think we're giving it more credit than it deserves. And anything that was good, which I agree with you, there were some good shots, there's some good moments, probably come from a director who like still knows visual style pretty well, a cinematographer who can get good shots, and by accident, which I think happens.
Sure. I mean, there's like, I don't know the rules, but there's like pretty basic rules when it comes to setting up a camera shot. And so I think it's very easy to happen upon, the like thinking of like cinematography, right? Like capturing a beautiful scene. Yeah. I think it does take skill, but I think if you also are just following the general like rules of like the planes of a camera, or like, I don't know the names for these things, but like the 1/3 rule, whatever, you know what I mean? Like if you were to look at the rectangle that is your camera and it's a grid, right? Like that's very basic filmmaking, is like being able to set up a shot within like the certain aspect ratio. So like if you're following those rules, you're going to capture a lot of beautiful shots, because that's how artwork, like there's rules to how we make paintings, right? Like perspective and stuff. Yeah. So 100%, I'm not surprised that there were some beautiful shots and some beautiful compositions. I will give credit where credit's due. I thought character design was really great with Arthur Fleck, but that carried over from the first movie. I thought production value was very good. I didn't like the character design for Lee, for the Harley Quinn character, but again, hey, she was underdeveloped, so I'm not surprised that they didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about her wardrobe.
No, and I think at the end of the day, my kind of official review and thoughts can be summed up basically the way you said it. Yes, there are some moments visually. I think the movie didn't work. I think that it's clear that it was a professionally done film. But the script is so weak, the direction is so all over the place and inconsistent that for me, we're going to our ratings now. I'm going to give it a skip it, and I'm very confident in that rating.
So like I said, this might surprise you, Mike, but I did say at the start of the episode that as much as we've lambasted, I think is the word, as much as we've, dragged this movie through the mud, I will say that overall this movie is not as bad as critics have made it out to be. Like I was expecting like the worst movie of the year, right? So I think there's a lot of problems with this movie. I think that it's watchable, and so for that reason, for me, it's a stream it. I think
I thought you would go maybe airplane it, but I did not know you.
I don't.
The way you were talking does not describe stream it to me. The way
I guess like I don't know. Like I think of like the average moviegoer, right, Mike? And I think about how overwhelmingly people loved the first one, and I did not like it. It's like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who find a lot of things worth watching in this movie, and for like, so if I was to like. I'm rating it from like an audience perspective, Mike, like the masses. For the masses, this is a stream it. Like it's a whatever movie. Sure, throw it on. I think it's a bit too dark for an airplane, so that's why I don't want to make it an airplane movie. I don't think you should watch heavy material on an airplane. I don't know if we've ever talked about that in terms of our genre rankings, but I never put like really heavy movies as airplane minutes, although I'm pretty sure I watched The Room on an airplane. Horrible. Not The Room, but Room with Brie Larson. I
Room.
watched.
Yeah.
I think I watched that on an airplane. Bad idea. Don't do that. So don't watch this movie on an airplane. But it's a light stream it. I don't think you have to run out whatsoever. I think even wait till it gets to HBO Max, or wait till it gets to a platform where you don't have to pay $6.99. But I don't think. And here's the thing, Mike. I don't think this movie is as bad as critics say, because I think the critics are giving it too much credit. Like you know what I mean? Like I think they're leaning into that narrative that maybe this movie has something to say, or that Todd Phillips is using this as a statement. I think if you bat all of that away and you just watch this as a sequel to the first Joker movie, it's a streamer. I didn't think the first movie was good, but people loved it.
Sure. But I don't even, the part of the issue I guess I have is who is this movie for? Because you're right, critics hated this movie, maybe unfairly, but the audiences hated this movie too.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, okay, who's an average moviegoer? Everyone I work with would hate this movie. My parents would hate this movie.
Yeah.
People who in theater that I know would hate this movie. So I'm like, who is this movie for? Like, who would like it? You know what I mean? Like, who? Like, are you thinking like sort of Zack Snyder people?
I
guess that kind of darker DC, like they would like it,
grittier. Maybe? I don't know. Like I'm thinking. So
only one I could think of.
I think it's oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. He did the original Hairspray, John Waters.
Oh,
so
John Waters. Yeah,
this is on John Waters, like one of best movies of the year. He thinks that it's one of the best movies of the year, and I want to say Quentin Tarantino also ranks this as one of his favorite movies of the year, or at least like higher rated than the critics would say. I think he was quoted as saying, "I don't understand what all the bad press is about. I liked Joker too." So I guess like those people maybe would like this movie. Although I'm really surprised John Waters, but like John Waters loves camp. And he probably saw like a lot of camp in this movie. So I think like there's a lid for every pot. And apparently John Waters and Quentin Tarantino are the lid to Joker 2's pot. I don't know. It's just, there's one last thing I want to mention, Mike. It's a self-correction. For a long time, we were saying, oh, this movie clocks in over 3 hours. I don't know where I read that in the news. This movie's only 2 hours and like 15 minutes. It's not 3 hours.
15 minutes, yeah.
It's
maybe
quite
because it feels like 3 hours.
I was gonna say it's manageable, but it does feel long. Like this is another bloated.
Yeah, I think it's long.
This is another bloated script. It could have been edited. So it's you made a very persuasive. Sorry, Mike. I think we might have a lag. I was just gonna say, Mike, you made a very persuasive argument, but it's still a stream it.
Yes, we do have a bit of a lag that we're now dealing with. But anyway, that we're at the end anyway, so the lag shouldn't matter. I just wanted to say once again to everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We hope you enjoyed this little bit of negativity on an otherwise bright and wonderful Christmas day. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.